Three Aussies, one Kiwi and one Norwegian walk into a bar on Inferno and they burn eUnited's hopes and dreams alive because that was a dominant and very impressive first map from the new Renegades lineup. It's kind of exciting to see, but it was more like we expected so much better from eUnited, right?
Fiery, wasn't it? I mean, let's stay at the positives, obviously. I mean, it's great to see. Going into the game, the win condition for Renegades was probably to get that CT start, get an explosive start at that, and then, just run away with it. But at the same time, eUnited actually, they were super underwhelming at the same time. To me, I felt like a lot of the things that they were doing were like empty shells, meaning that they had the executes, they had the ideas, but the actual execution and trying to get into the bomb site, they were just lacking pace. They were getting bottlenecked all the time. I call the classic bottleneck in Counter-Strike is getting in the quad of a bomb site and then just not going anywhere. You saw a bunch of times that eUnited players were just there, not having any opportunity to get to the bomb site because they were getting hammered from all around, and then they just didn't have the timings. Nothing was really working.
And it was like they were basically scared to move in at times, right? We were seeing things where they certainly couldn't even kind of force their way into sites. They didn't have the skills for it. But there was that glimmer of hope early on, right? So Renegades got the 5-1 at one point. So they just lost that one round. And straight into the second round, you saw there was a double kill that came up straight away, right? Round 7. And then you thought, oh, eUnited had some hope. Yeah,
I mean, that round as well, it was a good read from Renegades, actually, because they had 3 players go B in that round. But unfortunately for them, they lost 2 members straight away in that fight towards Banana. And then eventually Renegades decided to just bank on B bomb site. eUnited just literally walls into an empty A bomb site. They win the round. But then eventually, on the round afterwards, Renegades managed to win a 2-on-2 situation and kind of just start getting into a roll. And then that's when we see one of the fundamental mistakes I felt like was that once eUnited just didn't get their game going, it didn't feel like they were trying to go for map control. Let's say they didn't even like try to get top and middle control before going for an execute. Instead, they started throwing smokes from street, from before even getting into that top and middle position, meaning that there was so much time for the CTs to actually try to rotate and over-rotate at times because they were already in eUnited's head. You could really tell towards the tail end of it that eUnited were just running out of steam, and Renegades, they were just feeling it.
And this is the thing, right? This was Inferno, where at least when we were looking at it, you think, okay, Inferno, a bit more of a team map. You expect eUnited to have that factor that would give them the advantage going into it. And instead, we actually look away and go, well, wait a second. You were lackluster there. Coming on to Mirage, what are we even thinking? Because when you look statistically at it, you go, Mirage, they've had these back and forth games consistently where Renegades, you could be a bit more puggy on Mirage and get away with it compared to Inferno.
It helps when you have Other hitting like 135.3 ADR.
Pretty impressive.
It does help. Also, Greatest Faction getting into the game straight away, hitting some really, really crucial shots. That's going to bode well going to the Mirage, obviously, a map that is very, very heavily, can be an op-dominant map. And I can definitely see a Puggy style working out there. I mean, Mirage is a map where you need a couple defaults, you know the basic smokes, and then you can kind of work off of that. So, yeah, it's definitely not looking great for eUnited right now, but still, we're going to the second map in this series where it's still a map that Renegades hasn't played much, has they?
Yeah, this is the thing, right? Renegades don't really have the time as a team. They've added new players in. Okay, you might call it a honeymoon period at times, but regardless, eUnited on this, you think, okay, you are the team. You are the guys with the better chemistry on paper that should be able to be shown here. Because it's not like they've just, for Renegades, changed one player, right? Changing 2 players is a significant change to the dynamic, having to introduce new players to spots, maybe changing exactly how you play the entire maps. So I think going into Mirage here, like you were saying there, it can be played a little bit more puggy here for Renegades, but I expect eUnited to kind of challenge them a bit more because it's such a home field map for all teams right now. Because Mirage, we see probably one of the most popular maps going in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like also individually, you have to really expect eUnited to step it up. Someone like Ace, for example, he opts for the team. He needs to be able to produce numbers, and he was kind of, absent on this one. Only 7 kills throughout the whole map. So, they just, generally speaking, need to win those crucial 2-on-2 situations. Sometimes it is so simple that it comes down to an individual situation that you just happen to lose because players don't feel it, they're not hitting a certain shot, and then it just kind of snowballs from there on out. If you don't have the fundamentals going for yourself, as we did see from eUnited, it feels like most of the pacing was really the issue because they have the ideas. Obviously, they've been a team and played for a long time together now, so obviously you would expect them to have that, but then there are days when you're just not you're not in the game, in the zone enough. And it felt to me like eUnited was having one of those days.
I completely agree. And I guess the biggest concern for me when I look back at just the past few months for United, a team that we've spoken about quite heavily because since they're qualified, made them be able to take down C9 in a best of 5, which is no easy feat. Okay, it wasn't the C9 that won the major, but it should be.
Definitely
not even close to it, right? Let's be honest.
It's the same name.
It shows that eUnited have skill within their team. Sure. They can get these games done. But I just look back at their past Mirage results of recent. They would flip-flop. It's literally 50-50. You played Avangard twice, you lost 1-16-10, you won 1-16-9. Then you play Cloud9, you lose 1-16-13, you lose 1-16, you lose one again 16-13. Yep. You see what I mean here? It is fully like they're not really consistent with it either. And that going into this is what I personally just give Renegades the edge going into it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think right now, looking at that first map, you definitely feel like it. But then, the cool thing about these teams is that they have the capability of resetting and not really thinking about what happened in the previous map. Because I feel like going into it, Mirage, probably a bigger edge in the sense of Renegades hasn't played it. Obviously, the team side of things, expecting that the United is going to be a more rounded team, then that obviously is an upside for a map like Inferno. But then on the other side, you got to think of the fact that Renegades hasn't played Mirage much. So then obviously the changes and everything, but still meaning that the core of the lineup hasn't really played the map. But Counter-Strike fundamentally, end of the day, it's a lot about feeling the angles and having a really, really good feel for the game. So that could come into the picture, but that would also take a lot from eUnited's players to actually come in and showcase that what we've seen from them, because we've seen them actually play really, really good Counter-Strike, also on an individual level. And
that's what I was saying, right? Okay, Azza, he had a really good game on Inferno. If he didn't have that, do you think going into Mirage, that could be kind of a factor where Renegades drop off a bit here? Do you think where it could slow down? Because yes, Inferno was a dominant form, but they had the momentum. Things were spiraling out of control. eUnited definitely didn't play their A game. Do you see that if Azza didn't have this game going into Mirage, then we see more of an opportunity here for him?
I mean, you look at it, and you also have players like Liaz, who's playing well. You had Jacob was producing up. They'll all actually produce a number. It was just Azza was just having a bowler of a game. Yeah. Maybe if he didn't have all those kills, then maybe it would have been a case of one of the other guys could have possibly picked up the slack. But that's just more just trying to make a guess, honestly.
It's the situational style of things,
that's very true. I think Granny's faction is going to be a big factor. Like I said, mobile opper who can do aggressive moves. I think he can definitely be one of those players that can make a difference here for Renegades.
Well, we have got Scrawny and Launders joining us back. Quite a fast game there, right, guys?
Yeah, incredibly rapid.
Nice and easy for you?
Yeah, I'm not nervous at all.
So, looking at that, right, eUnited, what do you make of it? Because you've seen these guys play before.
Dude,
what went wrong?
It felt like they just weren't hitting shots.
Yeah.
I think that was like a huge thing. It's like, I hate when analysis comes back to that, but that was such a huge problem for them. Like, Ace missed a lot of op shots. Like, there was that one great clutch from Dazzle, which made it seem like he was on point, but everybody else was just like falling apart. And they would go for the executes, they'd go for like top mid control, but then they couldn't get past that point without just getting decimated. But get credit to Renegades though, like they held on. Whenever United would look for something, like they never were shy to come back and try to retake it. And so it looks very promising from their perspective too.
On top of that, you never saw Renegades have, strapped for cash. There was never economic problems. Like, they just had full momentum all the way. And then it's really hard to break that momentum at times. And again, when you're also missing shots and Renegades is just a good team on top of it, how do you stop Azza when he's, just killing you every single time you find contact? So yeah, outclassed by Azza and just unable to find an opening. But that map's done.
Yes, that map
we can
is
forget
done.
about that.
Over.
All right, yeah.
So going into Mirage, what do you guys think in terms of the hopes for eUnited? Do you think there's a chance for 1v? Wow. There's some serious bias going on. I'm going to expect this all the time now because you guys were so confident when we left you before you went into the game.
Yeah. See, luckily I didn't have time to make a prediction, right? So this is all on him. This is his fault, his problem.
This is actually a map that Renegades are really, really good on. I think they love going back to Mirage. It's just that it's an incredibly competitive map that isn't as deep as it used to be because like the meta's been so fleshed out.
Yeah.
But because the Renegades their form is really good right now, and I feel like they're just getting that new team motivation. So.
Yeah, there've been times where I've seen eUnited take a loss like this and then just turn back on after a map. Like I don't think they're a team, despite being of a lesser caliber, that do kind of get crushed or defeated or deflated by these sorts of results. So I'm not going to write them off based on that first map, but I am certainly going to say that Renegades look a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. This is the nicest thing to see, right? We get more of the kind of Oceanic region, because I'm going to remember that he is from New Zealand before people go crazy the whole time and just say that we're saying it's an Aussie roster with a Norwegian. But I feel like this looks like a much better in terms of just team play already, and they've only had this much time. So does this then give me a whole lot of hope going throughout the rest of the season, I think?
I think so. I think it should.
Yeah, I mean, for this particular match, I mean, I really do hope that eUnited is going to rely on their fundamentals, the things that they're good at, because Mirage is a map that they can definitely 100% play, because they're going to be facing against a team that you don't really know what you're going to be heading towards, honestly. And that means that then you're going to be the one that realizes when do we speed up the game, when do we slow it down, and have those kind of reads on what's going on, really, when you don't really know. It's all intuitive. So I think that those are going to be really crucial things for eUnited to recognize, for them to be able to be competitive.
So coming back into it then, guys, what are we thinking prediction times this way? We've got a little bit more time. We can flush this out a bit further. Natu, let's start with you.
I think this is going to be way more competitive. I mean, we all expected, honestly, eUnited to be competitive on Inferno, just for the fact that they're a team. They're playing against a team that's just been built together. But still, I feel like the fact that Renegades hasn't really played Mirage much in the recent time, have they? And also, the fact that eUnited has a respectable scoreline on the map feels like this could be more competitive. But at the same time, like I said, the factor is that Renegades, if they go aggressive, if Credit's faction is going to be that kind of an opera who's just going to be everywhere on the map, that could become an issue. That could definitely be something that eUnited has to try and solve before they even get anywhere near to a bomb site. So that's something. But I feel like it's going to be closer. Judging from the first map, though, you have to go for Renegades.
Okay, so Natu's going with Renegades. Launders.
Yeah, there's always a temptation of like the chain logic, like, oh, they just look bad today, but hopefully they can reset this map. I think, as you mentioned, like Renegades haven't been playing it a lot recently, and you line up all of this stuff. So I'll say if I'm in United's cap, I think this is a write-off. We move on the map to a totally different state of affairs. I'll stick to my pred and say they'll take it, but it'll be close.
Okay. Scroll.
I'm going to go with Launder's initial statement, right? I'm going to steal that prediction, get wild, and just say, screw it, 16-3.
Wow, okay, so you guys, you really believe that we can just turn this around and
because if I'm wrong, it was his fault to begin with, right?
Oh, so I see how you're doing this, right? You're
just taking all responsibility and just finding someone else to push it on.
Well, luckily, I don't have such a fragile ego, so I'm willing to bear that cross.
So Launders takes it on the chin, Scrawny hides behind you while you take all the shots.
It's another day in the office, you know what I'm saying?
Just like usual for you guys. But we still got a little bit more time to kill throughout this. Looking at eUnited as a whole, what things do you need to see for them in terms of their players and what they bring to the table on Mirage to make sure that they do walk away with a win here?
One thing we didn't see that we would love to see is like, we know Moose is like an extremely talented player. I think if we asked them into last season, they would have said that he was probably their best player. And I feel like he needs to have like more space in clutch rounds to really show what he can do. And I think that a couple of rounds could have been converted if he did have like a little bit more space, a little bit more time. So I would like to see him have a little bit more impact. And also, Ace is such an explosive, like fiery opper, and I think he gets in his own head a little bit. I can't totally speak for him, but you can kind of see by his like post-game tweets that he'll be like, "Oh man, I just wasn't feeling it today." I think a lot of his game relies on that a little bit. But
as an opera, you kind of have to feel it, right?
Right. So it's hard to say.
I feel like a secondary that where it's like there's few games I feel where I see Ace off to a slow start and then finish with a high score. It's like it needs to be good from the get-go, and I think Mirage is a map where that can happen. I don't think again that Ace is going to be stopped by the first result, but I would love to see him just come out, be really explosive alongside Moose, and then that's when we're really going to see the eUnited that is promising at times.
Feels to me like if eUnited kind of gets snowballed in the beginning, it just keeps on rolling. They can't really stop it. Obviously, there were a couple of rounds in the early parts of Inferno that got close. There were the 2-on-2s, a situation where had they come out on top, I feel like we could have been looking at a very, very different scoreline. But then as the first half progressed on, that's when it sort of seemed like an empty shell to me, where it just nothing was really clicking. They would have the smokes, the mollies, but then when they actually had to hit the bomb sites, felt like no one was taking initiative. No one was really having the guts to actually make the move, be the interfragger, go in, and take one for the team, and then the people afterwards would come in and take the rest of it.
Yeah, they certainly made it harder for themselves too. Like they won the first 2 rounds in a row, and then Renegades still had enough for an entirely full buy with Molotovs. And so that means that, on the eco rounds, eUnited weren't doing a good job of like chipping them down at least. So I think eco strategies might be a big thing. If you're going to lose a pistol, you're going to have to take that on the chin and still do damage, right? The game's not over just because you lost that round. So for them to continually try every round is going to be big.
And Renegades, I mean, they came out of the gate swinging, right? Think of the way we saw aggressive plays down Banana and middle in like the first 3 rounds. Like, I feel like they very much did try to exert that advantage in terms of caliber. And that's just another way to kind of start the suffocation of eUnited. And once you have your hands around their neck, they can't break out of that. You're absolutely right.
I want
in
you to
saying
continue
so.
with this, and we'll see how in detail that you get.
Yeah? Yeah, I saw you getting excited, so I stopped.
I think the one big problem I see in this matchup is the fact that it feels to me that the skill ceiling of the Renegades players is just way higher of those of the United guys.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That definitely showed. And I feel like also a United team in general, they like to be able to prepare solidly, like to do a lot of research on their opponent before they can come into it, right? And when you're looking at Renegades, you haven't got too much knowledge. You don't know how this exact roster is going to plan out either. So coming into it, you look at it and think, oh, well, actually, you're kind of guessing at times of how they're going to play. Because like you guys were saying there, it was just super confident from Renegades straight out the gate.
Yeah, but to the individual skill part, I actually think maybe right now, maybe that map, but I see United as the team that if they ever were to break up, eventually they'd end up on the Cloud9's, Liquids, the other top teams in North America. I think they'd skip a lot of the mid-tier section of Pro League. I feel like these are really talented players.
Okay, which players then? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, definitely Moose. Definitely Dazzle.
Canadian, of course.
I mean,
It's not a national pride, of course.
But the stats are behind it, right? At least with the United, like it's there.
Well, yeah.
It's there. So he does play well. And I think, you know what? I think Dazzle actually is one of those guys who maybe doesn't. It's easy to say like doesn't get enough credit for this team, but I feel like that's it. Is you have a team of those players. Who at times maybe when it's all. I feel like United has always just been missing that one super experienced player. Like take out any one of them and throw Josh Nissan, Steele, into the mix. I think he is able to curb and mold this team the same way he has with a team like Ghost, because we've seen Ghost improve tenfold since his inclusion. Mm-hmm. And so that's what eUnited is missing, is they're a team of very capable and very skilled players that just haven't been unlocked in that sense. And so I feel like Launders just says, you can plug them into different lineups where they're surrounded by that kind of environment, and they're going to shine. So they have the ability, but I don't know if it comes out as often as it should when they're all playing together.
And that's what we were talking about earlier, right? They've had it in the past. We've watched them make it through qualifiers. We've watched them nearly make it to the major. There's certainly all them pieces there. So I guess I could very much agree with that in terms of getting the experienced late leader there behind them. And
it's also weird because I feel like eUnited are one of these teams that punch upwards. If they have a big opponent ahead of them, they're going to pull up an upset. They're going to take Cloud9 out of the IEM Chicago qualifier or something like that.
In a best of 5.
But then when it comes to the consistency versus teams that are of their caliber or maybe just a little step ahead, like Renegades, we said coming into this, they have an edge because of the past, the history, some of their players' accomplishments. That's when all of a sudden we kind of see this different United. The promise kind of goes out the window. So yeah, it's like that. They have the ability to turn around, and let's hope we see that with Mirage.
Well, Mirage is coming up, guys. It's time for you to take the mics away and make it shine. The question is, can eUnited battle back, or will Renegades show their dominance once again? Take it away, guys.
Look at that, Launders. Fresh stats. 0-1-1-0. This is where the season begins.
Yeah, this is where it hurts the most though to have lost, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When you're already sitting on your 10 wins, maybe 3-4 losses, doesn't feel the same as starting here.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, you're splitting hairs when it comes to results near the end of the season. It's going to be like every loss now just hurts so much just because you know that one day that might come back to haunt you. And everyone only talks about the last games, but you could be completely out of danger if you just have a strong start. So here we are, Renegades on Mirage versus United. Initial smoke goes over for Jungle, one for Cat as well. It's the right side site take where they push a man at a CT. That's going to be Dazzle.
Yeah, unable to connect any headshots. It's very similar to what we saw in Inferno, where the B site player didn't have any ability to cut down a couple kills prior to the bomb being planted. So it's just an overwhelming push here from Renegades. Finally, Liaz will drop. And that leaves us in the even 3v3. Gratisfaction doesn't want to take the place of his dead teammate, and so they will retreat. Still holding on to the edge, but not by much, because it's only an edge that keeps Relics away from death. He sure enough does have the kit, but there it is. 2 swift headshots, and Renegades are going to start this off the same way they finished the first.
It's almost a 50-50 at that point when you have those side smoke comes out. Everyone knows that it comes down to this long this elongated fight in CT spawn with flashes and repeats, and how many CTs are actually going to come and try to fight, how many terrorists are going to push through, if there's going to be some kind of run boost, some late flash, and a lot of times it ends up being like a dry duel between 2 to 3 people per team, and there, Renegades stood their ground, and I think that's a huge reason why they just straight up won the round. Now they get this anti-eco. Renegades love going mid on anti-ecos on Mirage. That's something I'm not a giant fan of just because of how many ways there are to die at mid. But playing top mid is one thing. Pushing past the connector, window, and cap portion of the map is another. And it seems like they've actually backed off now, so played it quite safe and got their early 5v4 as well.
I like that there's still this close presence from eUnited on the ramp, though. I mean, if in terms of the weaponry they're playing with, this is how it's going to unfold if they're able to upset versus Renegades. It's going to take a couple of kills close, but you can see Dazzle playing counter flash and playing off of Dapper's contact. But Dapper, oh man, talk about full body contact. Both CTs just dropped instantaneously by Jacob. He doesn't spot the man inside the smokes, who does retreat a little further back. Ace, not wanting to give it up. Doesn't have much to lose, but he's going to lose it regardless. Azza flanks middle, sees and confirms the final kill, and therefore Renegades get through unscathed. That is 5 guys alive.
That's nice and easy. Like, that's how it goes when you're the IGL and you're going over this in dry runs with your team. Like, here we're going to go clear out mid. Hopefully we get a kill. They make a mistake, perfect, and we go group back towards A. And Jacob leads the charge, gets both of his kills, barely taking any damage. And it's just a small thing, but the fact that he was able to hit those first 2 bullets on each of those kills means that even if they had guns and they were playing some close ARAM setup, his aim was so on point, they probably would have not been able to stand a chance. So good sign, I think, for the Renegades here. And we've got the pistol round set up pretty much.
Jacob again, going to just try to lead forward. But here's the swarm of CTs that can get some damage done. They found 2 off the USPs, but obviously unarmored and unarmed does not spell a good fate for them.
That's nice. That's the kind of thing where you, as a CT, going to flash behind a smoke. You're trying to pick the timing wherein the Ts get a little bit too comfortable. They think they see the smokes go over, no one's attacked them right when they came out of A ramp. But here, maybe we can catch them pressing W, maybe we can catch them with a bomb going down. No way they expect this many people to come through a smoke. And then the other thing is that there's a flash to assist them. So anybody who is ready might get blind also. Now, top connector, or just connector, will get mollied out, as there are a few Ts here who look a little bit indecisive. I'm not exactly sure what the plan of action is here. But what's interesting is they could have gotten op. They had no smoke top mid, and they have not set their nades down quite yet either. Flashing for himself is Gratisfaction and still gets the kill on Ace. He's going to be mad at himself for that one. Flashing for yourself.
Oh, Dazzle. Poor guy walks right into the lineup. JKS is just patiently waiting for it. But obviously, eUnited, they're kind of getting shaken up into the position whereby they want to make a play. They don't want to stay stagnant and allow Renegades to group up with a man advantage, execute with full grenades. They know the money's fantastic. They know that the Aussies will have everything they could hope for.
All the Vegemite in the world.
Yeah. Is there a nickname for just like the Oceanic region in general? You know, like if you're a group of Australians are Aussies, but we have a New Zealander.
Well, New Zealanders are Kiwis.
Yeah. So what happens when you have Aussies and Kiwis? What does that make?
Got a fruit bowl. I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No. The bowl cut's on the other team. That's Ace.
Oh, there we go.
We got the grenades both ways. 30 seconds on the clock, and Dapper's caught looking the wrong direction. It's a one-way street, and Renegades push it forward. Frag grenades go deep, relics chipped, and while he does return at least some damage back, it's 15 seconds and a valiant effort, really, but it shouldn't surmount all too much more, and it doesn't. Gratisfaction gives cover, excellent op shot, 4-0 start, and Renegades, well, why slow down after Inferno?
The fundamentals look strong. They're playing the man advantages into completion with the way that the rounds go, and then the kills on top of that are just icing on the cake because they seem to be able to win the rounds, and they seem like they would win the rounds even if eUnited got some unexpected trades, just because of how safely they're doing things. But not only are they getting the early kills, they're getting the later ones. There's absolutely no resistance from the CTs, and we're just constantly seeing these save rounds. And I guess, like, as I mentioned earlier, game's not over, round's not over for eUnited. They still have to put in work on these rounds as well. Every clean round is a entire buy round in the pocket for Renegades. So I'm sure eUnited know this, but they also have CZs. And so I guess anything is up in the air. But Moose goes for his push. And that's the other problem. It's like you want to push on CT side. If a team's more patient than you, this is exactly what they want.
Relix has gotten one. Can't get his paws on the AK. Doesn't matter. Still able to get a fresh mag in and drop bomb. Picking up an AK-47. And now trying to lock this off for the next 50 or so seconds. Where are his teammates? Dazzle's running all the way through T-spawn, trying to come bolster this position within the apartments. Ace flanking. Should be caught by Jacob with ease. And he most certainly is. So it all boils down to how, if, and when Renegades can get their paws back on the explosive device. Double AK. And a Molotov. That could spell disaster for poor Relix. He gets burned into the open. Gratisfaction hits a second shot. And then we have the round go the way of Renegades regardless. So sure, it gets slowed down, nearly comes to a halt at one point. But it's Renegades nonetheless.
Yeah, that couldn't have been pulled off any better. I love that they chose to bounce the Molotov to the right. Flush the one person out who could have had a deep angle to hold the bomb as well and been the first line of contact. And then the guy in the back is actually trying to assist and help his teammate. But Relix is already backpedaling through the fire and is uncomfortable, which is a huge reason why people won't hit their shots. So now Ace falls back. Throws out the smoke just in time that he doesn't take a lot of damage, but he's opened the way for a B-split to occur quickly.
He was the front runner of the Apps push, but ooh, that could have been the difference maker. Jacob getting up from catwalk would have been big. Relix dying in the fire could have also created an opportunity where maybe Renegades feel confident in moving inwards. But rather than doing so, they'll send an expedition down towards Underpass, Asa looking for info and maybe an equalizing kill.
That was an interesting flash. Not very good, but interesting. The bounce to throw things off, I guess. Now Renegades have decided to fight from underneath, from within. The depths of connector, terrible place to be when you don't have control of anything else. But because there are no CTs here on Cat, there won't be anyone to shoot Azure in the back. And they've at least performed their part of a split right now. So each site is kind of equally spread out in terms of the CTs. But the Renegades still will have a tough time taking down the 3 remaining CTs here, who also have a bit of utility to work with as well.
No smoke for the execution. That's going to allow for Ace to do his job all the easier. And in a 5 versus 2, they'll cut down at least one. Remember, Relic's still a very big reliability, such little health, but it's just swarmed, completely enveloped inside of the site. Renegades, they had no footing and no utility to block off any angles. So eUnited, just keep your eyes up and your guns down range.
That's right. And if you're the B player in that situation, it's not really on you to rotate early. If your teams can't hold it down when they have 3 at A, then that's not your fault. And in fact, at that point, maybe you go ahead and try to save if the entries are too clean. And I like that Renegades had a plan in the 3-5, did not just go 1 by 1 into B, which we've seen people do way too often. But that wasn't quite enough. At least got a kill they maybe wouldn't have had otherwise. But Gratisfaction, the Opper, already low, minute 37, and he's been hit with a quality grenade, leaving him a tiny bit worse for wear in the B apps. Now down to 1 HP himself.
Yeah, it's back-to-back rounds where a player has survived on a single point of health, walking away from a Molotov. Both times.
It was the Opper too, yeah.
Yep. Some voodoo magic.
What is the fallback plan? Now, that was only stage 1. No, go for this entry. We've got a really great B spawn, but there's got to be more to it. No one to support Ace, Molotov, smoke, or otherwise. And it seems like they simply want connector.
Yeah, they seem to be fighting tooth and nail for it. Obviously, it's been forfeited ever since Ace took that bottle to the forehead.
Oof.
He's repositioned himself just to the side. And he's got Dapper near him, so if Renegades do come exploding up through connector, then maybe Ace gets that support, but not anymore. We do see Dapper re-rotating through CT spawn, and Ace's job is now to watch the catwalk. So this actually opens a huge opening right next to where we just had a strong supported position from eUnited. Let's see how this ends up unfolding, because they've gone all in on the CT spawn hold, and the grenades look fantastic. Blowing one to smithereens immediately. Ace now skewers the site. He doesn't have to worry about mid, but Eyes still on it. And 4 Eyes blown open towards CT spawn. Nice headshots from JKS. It at least ensures the bomb plant at the very least. But you've got an absolute beast in the clutch. Dropped by another monster, Moose. Finds himself and his team a second round.
Yeah. And that could have gotten strange just because our man in Palace spotted 2 CTs, but Moose pushed himself into an off angle. Leaves around with an op, so they pick up 2 this time. Relics will once again probably play the B side of the map, and Moose will likely drop his to Ace. Overall, a great hold, kicked off by Dazzle, somebody we highlighted at the beginning of the game. Needed to have variable impact, and we saw so many rounds like that on Inferno where it seemed like Renegades were doing a good job with their map control and then eUnited were just falling apart, but here that wasn't the case. So still signs of life, and it's eUnited 2-5 once again on the third round, but they've actually got Renegades in a pretty rough position. 2 players with no armor and just a couple of grenades.
Yeah, when the score island was like this on the first map, Renegades were in a still good position at this round, and it was from this point forward that they really took over the game. So let's see if they can do more with less. They've got the map control as they move players past Connector and the stairs, and they get the bomb to try and plant 4 mid, but they do so just as the smoke fades, and there's nothing to refurbish it. Regardless, they've at least scared the Connector player away long enough for that to go down. This is a win in terms of a bomb plant. It's the fast track back to the buy, and this is a sick boost with the Deagle player and the AK just beneath it. Moose clears close, and a big important shot from Jacob. A re-peek in from Relics. It only nets 1, but it's Dazzle's double that could really make the difference. Hazard and Gratisfaction both coming in from mid. Smoke goes down in front of their faces. Dapper desperate to get a kill here. Even Hella Distraction will get this job done. It was just a prioritized defuse coming off of Dazzle. Good multi-kill from him there. Clears out the site as Renegades try to move, and you see how it unfolds.
Yeah, it was great that they timed it in such a way that they pushed in. The big rotate was not going to be super viable. If Renegades, or if United waited too long, then obviously a play like that gets out of hand. But maybe if they had left one person, A-Ramp or Halls, there could have been a situation where the Connector, the huge flank guy, wouldn't have been expected. We don't live in that world, however. And Renegades actually end up losing. So not too bad of a position. I think for eUnited, there is, I think one thing is they're succumbing to a lot of the map control that Renegades wanted to take from them, and they can't rely on passive subs every round because those are the most predictable, because there's the fewest amount of safe spots to sit in. And if you're in a passive position, it's much harder to look for information once you're there. So you try to fend the other team off as long as possible. So you give up ground, and then by the end of the round, if you're in a passive spot, well, it just comes down to a couple kills, and it's not easy to get the bomb down. You don't like to start out the round like that too often, and they also don't want to just give up map control without making it seem like they're willing to play ball. So I want to see if Renegades try to go for the connector control again. If eUnited will spend a little bit more of their resources attempting to kill the connector player.
God, the entry is smooth so far. Look at all this attention from eUnited being pulled in towards middle. Renegades nearly find a free bomb site, other than Dazzle, who is still back and, as we know, impactful. Picked up a multi in the previous round. An exchange of kills. His bomb will most certainly be planted. It's got the cover, so it seems. Dazzle looks to interrupt it. Oh, but just after the numbers are punched in, the planter himself does die, and JKS would love to clear CT spawn right now because his position is so vulnerable. He has no idea how many players could have just been looking at him, but what he does know is he's dead. Dazzle gets him done. Liaz pushes back inwards. Not going to be much fun. He has zero cover, really, other than the Tetris box, where he does line one up. That was a nice flashbang. It enables him to at least cut down the numbers, and a second clean headshot is good. He's got a little bit of a disjointedness here from eUnited. A spam from Jacob off of the bomb, but he doesn't realize that the player's gone. He didn't see he got the kill.
No time.
Oh, just in the nick of time. He
Wow.
still manages it.
No time. Oh my gosh.
That's why he continued to kill the corpse. He knew he had it.
I don't know. It did seem like he didn't know where the bullets were coming from.
Yeah, that was my attempt at a joke.
Okay.
He had no clue he got
Wow,
the first
drier
kill.
than me. Wow, didn't think I'd meet someone who drier humor than I did, but here we are. So, yeah, that was quite close. That was quite close. What a round from Liaz. His movement looked so nice on Tetris as well, the way that he was jumping up on the boxes. And this was no sleeper round either. JKS goes down with a big gun. And Dapper, I think, wanted to go ahead and retrieve it. There's no chance that'll happen.
Overwhelming round. Think about the pace that's been set in comparison to the previous. They flew their way into the A-bomb site, and that was versus the force buy. eUnited did invest into that.
Yeah,
so that's going to come at a cost here.
I like that Renegades are basing their strategies based on what they believe the economic situation of the other team to be. So a lot of the times when they think that's going to be pistols, they'll try to use contact plays. And I like that because sometimes you throw a smoke down and a pistol is going to abuse that versus you. Whereas if there was nothing on the map at all, obviously you'd be happy to aim map with an AK or any type of rifle versus these pistols. And on that round, it ends up being a force buy, which means there's not going to be Molotovs to stop them either. And it's a nice, easy cleanup in the A site. So back to mid control, the best place to go if it's going well, I think. Go through the motions. The CTs will quickly get tired of the fact that you're constantly stealing this part of the map away from them. Forces them to make some rash decisions sometimes, and also just begs for a bit more aggression.
Oh boy. Body's not entirely ripped to shreds, but Gratisfaction gets a second. Look at all the blood that comes out of the T, though. You can see, obviously, all those shots lining up for the counter-terrorists. It's always a gamble. It's literally a gamble. If Renegades hadn't walked this direction, then they'd still have all 5 players alive. Gratisfaction just juggling guns until he takes a 9mm to the back of the head, cleared by the frag of JKS. So you feel the contact, you figure out where the stack is at, and then you immediately move elsewhere in order to ensure the round. Because again, eUnited, they were all in on the opposite side of the map. They have nothing to do with this A site. Oh, but they found the op.
That's it. That's at least something. They're going to know that because Gratisfaction spent obviously so much time trying to move it, that this was the gem in their eye. And Moose is being tricky, looking for a fight in a good position. That's strange for where he left off of Cat. Typically, you'd see this guy go into B halls, and we can see from the T's they understand that as well. There isn't much time to find him, so he'll at least get to retrieve that, take it over to the next round. And with that information, Connor, I think that's going to be cool to see. Like now we can get some real insight as to like what they're going to do based on the reaction to knowing an ops being saved, if it's going to be like a force. So a lot of the times we see them do walkouts versus force plays, force buys, or even eco rounds. And here, because eUnited saved last round, they're actually going to have enough to cover this. But I guess it would have been interesting to see what they do if they didn't think that eUnited had an op. And now they're probably going to play it relatively safe. Gratisfaction, no op spawn for him. Take him out to mid and ace. That is not an easy jump to. I would be shocked if he could hit that in a match. That is an insane straight. That is like one of the hardest jumps. Those strafes look good, but that is like an incredibly hard jump to hit.
I feel like if anybody hits it though, it's Ace. Ace was the first player I knew of that so you're T on Inferno and you're run boosted onto the half wall of Banana, and then you bounce you B-hop off of that in order to fly around the standard CT angle that operas hold. I remember one time I watched Ace just completely destroy Yugi in that exact same play.
No, he has amazing movement.
That's one thing that
straight
Ace
sideways
has.
to get away from things, and with his op, you can just see right away.
Yep.
Clearly thinks about it a lot.
He's got those big scrim tings. Ace.
A great Twitter series.
He's still looking for this duel. It's Jacob on the other side, not the actual opera. Gratisfaction over to the left. I was wondering whether or not they'd go for this AWP versus AWP fight, knowing again that eUnited managed to save one from the previous round, and it does look like that. With the pace that they're playing, with Gratisfaction trying to feel out middle, seemed like they wanted him to find that opening, soften him up, but it's actually the frag that softens Ace. Down to 52 health. He's going to be picking pieces out of his teeth.
Sounds like a fun morning.
Asa quickly gets himself up ramp. Dapper's going to catch him with an off angle. There you go, buddy. Your first kill. He's on the board. 12 rounds deep. He's done it. But there's still a problem, and that's that Renegades are starting to just trickle into the B bomb site with just enough time. 6 seconds left. Relics does not stop it, so it's at least down, but obviously still a round that eUnited should easily pick up in a 1 versus 4. There are still some costs, but they've got it. Dapper, 3 kills this round. He's done it.
He's done. First one's the hardest.
There you go.
Second and third, we saw it. Came easy.
Nicely done. I like the way they just wrap back up into the B site. Suffocated Renegades as quickly as Renegades pushed in.
It's funny, just like a small risk that he took by pushing the jungle smoke, standard stuff, and he gets all the info in the world. If somebody has free roam over the A site in that situation, they can potentially flank, and that would cause so many more problems. But not only does he die, that's like a 5v4 immediately, and the fake is called. The rotations come in, and all the T's are terrified. So it was a change of pace. Every single one of the Renegades here at the A ramp. Not my favorite place to entry from, considering it's kind of a nade dump, especially from CT spawn. Dazzle full belt. It's not going to throw anything quite yet.
It's all the way to the triple box. Still just running forward. Jacob will get that first point. And of course, Dazzle with a double. He's been very consistent to getting those multi-frags, at least laying down some lead from that back position. But he does get overwhelmed once more. And his position is taken back by Dapper. The other 2 CTs trying to come in through connector. Liaz flirting with the idea of going for this peek here, but the smoke grenade will get the job done, except blocks off his vision, so he's just toying with the edge of angles here. He's got to be cautious with his footing. And these CTs have really let this bomb go by. It's already past the halfway mark. They don't have themselves in close proximity, but Dapper does clear close smoke. There's a trade frag, and it continues to go this way, but time is the biggest issue yet once more, and Moose cannot get Gratisfaction off the site. He plays around the corners and gets the job done. That's 9 for Renegades.
No health either. Oh, 1 damage. He dies almost out of the bomb site radius, so damn, that is truly unfortunate. Had a small opportunity to get the kill, and I thought that Liaz had that locked up, but then he died in the smoke to Dapper, and I was like, man, you threw that smoke down, you had the good, 15-second smoke. He probably had, 2 or 3 more seconds. It might have been coming up, and that's why he felt the need to push into CT. But I think the second smoke that he threw down was really just what locked it up, made it so difficult for 1/3 of the CTs left to try to do something.
The amount of times we've seen this just straight up ramp walkout has been really consistent from Renegades, whether that be with smokes down for connector or just a first point of contact. They've really challenged this A-site defense, and Dapper's going to try to challenge the offenders because we've got Renegades down by another, but still up by 1.
I love this. They have, since they eUnited has retained palace control, or potentially have, it's actually dangerous for Relics to try to go back onto the site. Now JKS going down. That would have been great. That would have been really smart from the Renegades to hold that position and wait for the fallback. But they've already led to B, so this is the most important part of the round. Slight disadvantage because Liaz is low, but once they're in the after plant, I think you'd choose to be a T over a CT.
Pressure is on as well, right? These are the 2 new guys for Renegades. So that core, the ones that believed in you enough to pick you up, are now judging your every move.
Wow, watching your every footstep.
And those footsteps lead towards catwalk for Gratisfaction. No footsteps for the tagged Liaz as he's just floating here inside the apps. The bomb immediately covered, and Moose just gets him right through it. Oh, Moose manages both kills.
My goodness. Just the quiet defuse at the end of it. So much time left over because they just unleashed the Moose.
Moose is on the loose.
Without the antlers.
Big ol' Elliot.
Elliot Moose is on. Oh my God, how do I know that?
That's your Canadian
We grew up
childhood.
with that, Jesus.
Of course there's a Canadian cartoon about Moose.
Oh my gosh.
Or Meese.
We could make jokes about the plural. But we know there are a certain amount of people out there, Connor, that don't know that the plural of moose is simply moose.
But we call those people chumps.
Yeah, and we bully them on broadcast.
Because they're not here to defend themselves.
That's right. That's when we're at our strongest.
Authoritarianism here at ESL. This one, interesting. Renegades not playing off an economic back foot all too often, so I like that we still see heavy utility from them. I think that's been a key piece to a lot of their A executes, and I want to see it once more, even though they don't have the heavy weapons to go back behind it. They charge through, and Dapper meets them. Goes toe-to-toe, blow for blow. Dazzle finding one is cleared from JKS, and that's an upgrade into the M4, with all of a sudden a little bit of a stall inside of the bomb site, because Gratisfaction has fallen back, and the long-range CZ kill cuts this down to the 1v2. The flash goes high, 6 shots in gun, down to only 1. Even the headshot won't get this done, so the reload, it doesn't matter. There's no opportunity. He needs a weapon.
Whoa. Wow, just to dodge the nade damage, too, pushing into the corner of the wall, and now it's just such a longer round for Relics to have to figure out what's going on. He's like, man, why isn't this over? Gratisfaction was supposed to be dead. He's actually switched off to the Glock because there was simply no ammo left over, and Relics is here to call out a big rotate, but misses the ladder jump, and it's actually going to cause to make this, like, this is going to be such a longer time spent on the side. I think at this point, man, you got the Glock, you put that bomb down and just assume you played him.
I mean, listen, there's not many situations where you switch to a Glock, Launders.
Yeah.
This would be a treat. He's sitting on 3 kills with just that CZ75. 16 HP, and he's repositioned over towards market. I don't know how you win this duel with a health disadvantage and a Glock in your hand. Like, this is when size truly matters. So it's going to be about how you use it, and he's going to do that by getting close. Relics, he's looking the wrong direction. Gratisfaction caught. If only he comes back around the other way, maybe the element of the surprise, but nope. Instead he dies, and that's 6-9.
Yeah.
eUnited close the gap by at least one more round.
At least one more round, yeah. And again, with the Glock, I mean, what are you supposed to do? But it was tough. He saw that Relics had tapped the bomb, but he didn't know if he was sticking it because he could see the barrel rifle, but he couldn't see the wire coming out of the bomb. So he thought, all right, well, if I go up in front of him and he's still defusing, I could probably kill him and he won't see me, but I don't know that. So goes for the big flank around, and it's an easy round for Relics.
At least a better scoreline here from eUnited. Renegades, though, still on that T side, they did look really good. Their ability to change up the pacing on their A site hits. I mean, there was times where they just bled eUnited out, caught them going for those one-man pushes, punished Moose for the plays he likes to make.
Yeah.
And then there were other times where we just had them charge straight in within the 20-second mark, already shooting guns and blasting heads.
Yeah.
So, awesome little first half here from Renegades on the T side. Let's see if eUnited can also set a precedent. I do think that on a map like Mirage, they should be giving us something good to talk about.
Definitely. And there is another point about the Renegades, that they get probably a lopsided amount of information to going into not only a match versus a team where there are actually demos on those 5, but a team in which they have demos at all, and they get to just like sit there with their whole team, talk about the first match of the season. They're probably studying for this one more than they are for tomorrow or the rest of the days, right?
Yeah.
They've got a big swing in that way as well. It would be interesting to find out if eUnited felt as such.
You feel like you've seen any kind of, like initial struggles here with the inclusion of the 2 new guys from Renegades?
I don't know. I think Gratisfaction was hitting great first kills and then missing really easy second kills. I saw that. You saw that on Inferno, right?
Yep.
First shot almost lost rounds because of that.
Fallback.
That's such a scary thing for me to see as from an opper, because we've seen that from almost every opper that we look at as being really inconsistent. Basically, every opper that's like this guy that people talk about that's not on a top 3 team, right, is the opper that hits such a nasty flicks but then misses the absolute sitters. So we don't know if that's just today or not, but that maybe is like one red flag in my mind. I didn't bring it up at the time because it's like, hey, you can't hit all your shots, and obviously you're supposed to, what are you supposed to do? You deathmatch sometimes. You're supposed to hit the ones in front of you, but for whatever reason, he wasn't.
Sometimes that's the way she goes. See how the pistol goes with, again, Renegades now on the defensive. One man inside of the A bomb site. JKS reveals himself by picking up Dapper first and foremost. But the bomb's gone down. It was the double smoke here from eUnited. They used both pieces of utility on the execution, which leaves them with nothing on the after plant. So the retake is inbound. Even keel in terms of the man count. Remember, Az has got double flashbang, so I want to see them come around these corners with those. Blinded and up close. The USPs of the CTs connect both the first kills, and Relics actually gets himself back around a corner, but then he is cleaned up. So only one flash, and that one flashbang makes the difference.
It was big. And it's an absolutely identical pistol to the first pistol. It's kind of silly. I feel like at this point, you know, not obviously for the team who wins. And I don't think the strat is bad from either side, but there needs to be a more consistent way to approach the retake, because it feels like if you know that it's going to be some kind of CT play, we see this duel happen way too often, and from my perspective, it looks fairly random. Someone's expecting a flash. Hopefully you hit the shots. You don't know when they're going to peak, but you know that they're going to.
You literally see two of the Renegades players, those that have to go for the duel, just lined up, crouched, and waiting. I mean, there was a moment there where eUnited hit 2 easy headshots in proximity with those Glocks, and it's a you know, T-sided round in terms of the pistol. So, yeah, it does seem random. I see what you're saying.
Running credit card here, just making footsteps up in the halls. I don't even think they did that to maybe pull a Molotov, but they have no intention of going back to B. So 2 players in the site and 4 going halls. I love this. Closest choke point to get to the site is right at the end of the halls here. So we're just gonna have our number 3 man pop a flash that'll go high and far. I would like to follow it, but doesn't work on JKS.
Nope. Jacob, he's even here to support off of the staircase. He's got the verticality, the support up close from the MP9, and it's all too easy, right? It's a nice little palace pop, sure, if you're able to get down into the bomb site, and then so long as nobody in CT spawn just mows you down as you try to plant, you've got money.
I feel like JKS turned at a lucky time, because there's no way he heard the flash go off, but he turned just as it popped, so found a fortunate timing, but there was enough eyes on that. And the only problem with that is that no follow the terrorist, but the flash that you can throw has to go so high that it's an after image flash at best. But it's an interesting way to try to make the most of 4 players. Around you're not spending money. eUnited have not prioritized utility over the AKs on any of their players, and that's kind of all right. That's kind of an interesting fade.
It's October.
Thought I was getting older for a second.
Yeah. Am I seeing the future?
Still might be true, by the way.
I felt clairvoyant for a second. But back to reality. eUnited's still stagnant at the top of mid. Nobody offering themselves up. Remember, Renegades, when they started their T-side, they had a couple rounds like this at first as well, where they tried to feel out the CTs and punish any kind of over-aggression. So I think it makes sense for eUnited to try the same thing. But they're just not getting it. Renegade's not biting.
This is not good. 50 seconds left. They're not making their way all the way down mid, and they just don't have any utility. I really would not go mid on a round like this. Look at this. They can't even. They have to worry about window.
Yep.
Constantly. And they still will have a crunch between a player there and then the 3 left on A.
No incendiary to burn Jacob out of these close quarters either. So it's not even checked. Bomb thrown out into the open. 2 swift headshots. Even gets us a 3rd. I mean, he's shooting bodies, right? The double tap rule takes effect, but JKS in from CT. And that, folks, is why you buy grenades.
Yeah, buy grenades or do something way more simple. It didn't seem like they had a good way to go mid there. I think they were lucky to get as far as they did, and then they had no way to smoke window. I mean, typically you're smoking window twice, you're Molotoving at once, and then you're taking connector control, then you're waiting, then you're going back for a split, then you're throwing CT smoke, and then you're executing with your teammates. They're like, let's do this with 3 flashes, and that seems really, really risky. So I'm not exactly sure why that was the call in particular. But if they think mid was attractive, then they should have had a couple of players go CZs. If there's no, like, you really do in some situations have a better chance of getting a kill with just a CZ, and there is a place behind an AK where you can put that player that they could still be useful. And if you're really desperate, you can get a Galil.
Oh, Jacob can smell blood. Tapper's just underneath him. But another smoke grenade down, so just playing the clock. Forcing eUnited into an awkward spot whereby they will go for a boost. 1 or 2. Ooh, just 1. And Relics gets a catwalk kill off of this. Now, Gratisfaction knows he's close, shoots him in the kneecaps in an attempt to hunt the man in the underpass. Comes back for more. Second servings. Doesn't get much. Well, Moose actually softens up the connector here. Gratisfaction feeling the heat from both directions, then sweeps away 2, goes for the 3rd, and bites off more than he can chew. That is Ace with an AK. Moose with a Deagle.
The CTs with the advantage still, as JKS somehow made his way out the triple It doesn't seem to be too worried about Palace. Wow, JKS being very mobile in this situation.
Yeah, and Moose obviously not expecting that whatsoever, so he gets the best of him. Moose was still honed in towards spawn. Ace has just now sprinted towards the site because he's got 8 seconds left, and as he goes for the cross, he checks CT instead of the man towards stairs.
Yeah, just another victim of good crosshair placement, as all kills should be. And Renegades are 3 away from taking map 2 as well. United falling flat here in the second half early on, and then at least we'll now have a round where they can, if they look back, if they lose this, they can look back and maybe be able to talk about a few more things. But back to mids, what I like to see. I would definitely see how they put this utility to use. Azure gonna go out front to try to get a frag, and it's actually a trade, but at the cost of a team kill.
At least Dazzle gets that op shot. That's an important fadeaway kill here versus Gratisfaction, because it's combined with Moose just getting himself footing on A, charges forward towards spawn. And now he's going to call his teammates over to do the exact same thing, right? His route was clear. Why wouldn't theirs be?
Yeah, if I'm Renegades, I actually do assume that it's B here, just because they saw him go spawn and they figure, okay, there's a big wrap and they can hold down on the window. But it looks like Renegades have split up and sent one on a big flank towards A with Liaz staying in the connector. Not a bad spot to be in. And the Molotov, is it going to spread? No, Ace doesn't take damage. Wow.
Oh, man. Finds an oasis in a desert of flames. Moose gets back into position. He had gone on a bit of a foray towards Marketplace, but gets Liaz regardless. So now the big question is, do they anticipate Jacob coming from here? Because Dazzle's fully exposed on Tetris. One tap, one dead, walks away.
Cut your losses and exit. Interesting.
See, it's crazy. Like, of all the rounds we've seen between these two teams, right? And I'm going to criticize eUnited for this more so than Renegades. This is the first time we see real players saving. Like, anytime we see players saving, it's constantly Renegades. Like, I think he could have justified maybe playing for that even. Just gone for a little peek into the site, you know? Maybe because you catch Dazzle in an off position, there could be another secondary man that was also in a kind of, you know, cumbersome spot. Not ready for your peek out Palace, but keeps his AK, and I'm all for it.
Jacob up to 22. Looking like Azure in the first map. Just a few more deaths. But overall, a much better round from United, and we see that they work well when they're well oiled. They've got all their utility. They've got many options and big brains. They can lay it all out on the map. And the trades did actually go the favor of Renegades maybe at the beginning there for a second, but Moose came through. And Renegades have a ton of information right now, so no mid fake just yet. 2 players in B, but 5 coming out.
Whoa, he's got himself 2 headshots very swiftly. Give us a third. No, can't maintain the aim. Relics will get past him and continues to look for targets, but they're all smoked off or hiding, giving United a false sense of security here. They will pick up another kill, but that's bomb thrown out into the open. Moose desperately left to clutch once more, and Jacob just sidelines him. So Renegades, they welcome eUnited to attempt that push.
Yeah, and Gratisfaction was nice. I mean, the 2 new guys there were both great. Liaz obviously kicking the pace off with 2 kills, but they even had a player behind him on Cat and the op from a position that sometimes people call Skadoodle, but not everyone knows that.
No.
And I don't even remember the round that gave him that name. We're not breaking down the whole set, guys. Don't worry.
We promise. We promise. Just the parts we don't like. This is a nice patient angle. Should get himself a kill, most certainly. Off of a flub smoked. I mean, we talked about the...
Did he block it, though?
Oh, right. Of course, the incendiary.
Maybe.
Maybe one way? We didn't catch it.
3 options. Gratisfaction hasn't been there, too, so could have been unexpected. So, Azur's also going to spot just a leg of one player moving into connector and completes the spray. Low HP for him, but at this point with the 5v3, they don't have much to worry about.
Two flashbangs against Launders. That's all they have to work with. So we're looking for Deagle duels. We're looking for Moose to just crack a skull and create an opportunity. Not going to find anything just yet. Teammates get a little closer with the upgraded guns. That's what you'd like to see, but now it's just down to the double Deag, and neither finds a kill. It is just duels after duels here being picked up by Renegades.
It's not getting any better, man. It's really not getting any better. This T-half is falling apart, and obviously on that one round where they had a lot of utility. They made it look nice, but not enough chances to play. And also, Renegades have won so many pistols that it's just been an early exit on the T side, both maps.
Yep.
Even though we don't know if they're going to lose. I don't know.
Yeah, of course, but it just seems that way.
It does feel like
seems that way because of now this being 2 maps back to back where we've seen them kind of fall flat, not have necessary depth, and I emphasize the necessity of said depth. Because it just it's very flashback to Inferno where it's just rinse and repeat. Go back to the same things. Another charge out onto the A site, not with enough utility to clear the corners. Nobody challenges Jacob until he's immediately killed, and Ace desperately just goes flying through the skies, but it works. If it wasn't for JKS, it would be entirely eUnited across this kill feed, and there's a chance they still do more, except for now it looks all the worse. Dazzle duels and doesn't get himself the kill, so he falls to Liaz. Another headshot and another swift win here from Renegades. They looked a little mortal on that first half, Launders, but once they swapped over, eUnited absolutely denied anything further in this match.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start, really. Unfortunately, with the T side, it doesn't seem like they at least got enough chances to play. They had one round where we can kind of extrapolate data from and say that this is what they did well, this is what they didn't. But beyond that, I'm not really sure. There's not too many positives here, unfortunately, for United to fall back on.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, super rough start.
Well, it does look like once again eUnited can't take on the boys from down under, and I gotta say it was just a little bit too lackluster when we had that whole 9-6 kind of scenario, right? You fought 9-6 on the first half. Okay, there might be a bit of a chance in there, but it's pretty good for Renegades considering being on that T side. But then coming over to the second half, they just managed to keep it going, and I just felt like eUnited just again fell flat.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, I feel like when you're playing against, like, the expectation going into that game is that Renegades will probably just do very basic things. Mid control being the big factor, and that's a lot of it what we saw. United wanting to really play against it. I felt like they should have forced Renegades to do actual executes, to actually engage into the bomb sites. That's where the lack of having the synergy, the lack of having those hours together would actually start showcasing. So instead, they wanted to go for the fights, and I felt like that was one of the issues. They obviously losing the pistols doesn't help. When you're playing for just 30 rounds a game and you lose 2 pistols, that's up to 6 rounds you've already lost. So that's a massive issue.
And I think as well, just for Renegades, this is a great start, right? You've got the new roster. You come in, you look very revitalized. You look like you have a whole lot of confidence that we haven't seen from Renegades in a while, right? We've seen them get so far, but every step they kind of were halted when they're trying to further themselves at the bigger events. Well, coming straight into your first online season here with the new lineup, showing your skills, I think this is a good sign for an early start.
It was like a feel-good game for Renegades, honestly. It felt to me like, everyone got going, everyone got had some great moments in those matches, and they didn't really feel like they were stressed or challenged all too much throughout either of the maps, honestly, because they were just given way too much of the room that they would really like to have, which is meaning they would get into raw duels, they would already be able to put the down, either have the man advantage or be in equal situations, and that's where they kind of strive because they are very intelligent players with a lot of raw skill. So you put those players in those situations, they will prevail a lot of the times.
Well, we come and have a look at this pistol round once again, and this was where it kind of all fell apart from early on. We spoke about how pivotal the pistol rounds were, but it was just Renegades getting off to a similar start to what we saw in Inferno. Now, we definitely saw that eUnited had an opportunity to bounce back, right? We see them get a few more rounds than what we saw in Inferno, but we expected that because eUnited have put up good results in the past here.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, you get that start. That's, again, win condition. Renegades get a massive, great start. They get 5-1 up. But then eventually, this is one of those rounds where actually Renegades were forced into actually attack the actual bomb site and not get the fights in the middle. So that's when it got dicey. But twice in this half, eUnited loses rounds because they don't have time to defuse the bomb. They just take far too much time in the retakes, which to me kind of strives or showcases this lack of confidence, or kind of, you don't really have like the basic things for these kind of retakes where everyone knows what to do, when instead they're second guessing themselves far too many times, meaning that they just keep on losing time, and eventually even they get the kills, they just don't get the defuse, and eventually lose the round. And obviously that's always going to put yourself into a dicey situation.
And I really felt like here it was like, okay, eUnited, this is more of a kind of a shade thrown towards you because you are a more well-rounded team,
Yeah.
or you should be. And I just think looking at it, it's like, okay, you go back and say, eUnited, you've had these good results in the past, but what on earth is going wrong now? And it leads me to think, we were talking about it right after the first map, was coming into those eco rounds or the upgraded pistol rounds, and they just didn't really do enough damage. They didn't have strong plays there. Like every time when it come off the pistols, they got 3-0'd. And normally right now, look at the meta, we see a lot of the kind of, okay, look, we can upset them, we can grab the weapons, we can turn this around. That hasn't happened here for eUnited.
Yeah, utility usage definitely was a flaw for them. You know, the guys were also highlighting it a lot of the times. They were just not using grenades or flashes, mollies effectively enough. Obviously, you will have the basic smokes, but then you will have to have that flash timing and the mollies so that you kind of pressure the CTs into trying to make a move, put them in awkward position, and then make sure that you're trading effectively once you're getting to the bomb site. But time and time again, there's way too many free kills for Renegades on the CT side. They were just not pressured. None of them, when we were watching them, really blind in any situation, or where they're in an awkward position where they would be mollied, having to switch positions. So, I mean, you just make it far too easy for a CT side just holding an angle and push mouse down, push mouse 1, and just, you know, that's about it, right?
Now, if you were to think of one more thing that you want to see more from eUnited coming up into the rest of their games throughout this season, what do you think is going to have to be the biggest change they need to make?
I feel like it's just the way they commit to their pushes. On Inferno specifically, what it felt to me like they were actually using utility pretty well, but there was always just maybe that one flash missing, which would then push the CTs back a little bit, that would actually let them go through those bottleneck situations.
Yeah.
And then also committing to the push properly. Make sure that your entry fragger is actually going in and forcing plays, so that then it causes a reaction from the CTs, and then you will have that trade system coming in. You try to make sure that you're always on top of the numbers. You make it into a 5-on-4, then might become a 4-on-3, at least like a 2-on-3, 3-on-3 kind of a situation after plant, where you have a possibility to clutch it out or have a good after plant situation. So just gotta pace it better.
Well, Renegades do start with a very swift 2-0 here in the North American ESL Pro League. But next up is going to be Luminosity taking on Rogue, who have also made a change. So don't go anywhere. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Four minutes.
I'm gonna grab some water.
Yeah. Fuck this hot room.